You've tuned into The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lain. Gardening, it can be challenging, but with these simple insider tips, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, let's tune into today's Mountain Gardener with Ken and Lisa. And we are back with Lisa Waters Lain in the studio, helping me out with the radio show each week for the last, how long have we been doing this? A lot of years, like more than a decade, a lot of years. So got a lot of shows under our belt, and we've just been doing this, well, your entire life. I married in. Here's a quick story. So I've always loved gardening. So my mom, my grandparents, they loved gardening. They'd take me to the garden center. They'd take me to Waters Garden Center. And I just love garden centers and planting, gardening, and tomatoes and trees and shrubs and slinging rock and building walls, all that stuff. And so out of high school, graduated from PHS, go Badgers, here in Prescott. And I tried to get a job with your dad. Interviewed, and he said no. And so I went, okay, I'm not working. I went to work for Sears instead. Still went into retail, just a big football player, delivering like refrigerators and sofas all around the county. So that's what I did. And then I married you. Mm-hmm. We got our degrees from ASU, go Sun Devils, teachers and business management folks. And we started doing our corporate thing, coming back to Prescott, Arizona. And we asked your dad, hey, can we have a job? And he was starting to look at, well, what am I going to do with this thing? Retirement. And so he said, yeah, you can have a job. And we came back to Prescott. And so that's the only way I had to bring you. The only way you'd hire me is if I married his youngest, most beautiful daughter. And then he'd say yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Anyway, that's the story. We're sticking with it. That's the story, and he's sticking with it. And if your dad was still here with us, he passed a couple of years ago. I tell him the same thing. Actually, he's heard that story many times. Mm-hmm. Anyway, love the garden center business. The customers, they're relaxed. This is like a highlight of the week for them. It's not a stressful thing like, how much lumber do I really need? Is this the right faucet? I have no idea. No, it's like, I love butterflies and hummingbirds, and I'll take 3 of those. Mm-hmm. So literally that kind of mentality at the garden center.
Right. Very relaxing.
So I don't know why I went down that path for 2.5 minutes. This is all about Lisa. She's sharing her garden tips, not my or our historical past.
So garden tips.
There we go.
What's going on in people's yards? So right now the critters are hungry because we haven't had the monsoons to make all the natural growth. So there's a lot of critters out looking for some snacks, some food, some water.
Your landscape.
So, and one or two, but some of you are in parts of town where you have like herds of rabbits that roam through.
And they're still breeding. More coyotes, more bobcats.
So it behooves you to put in some plants that they're not necessarily going to be attracted to. That way you get to enjoy them and they're not the diet for the rabbit. So I pulled a couple perennials, but there's also, if you're into shrubs, there's a lot of shrubs. We have a great list, actually, our deer and rabbit resistant list. That is very effective. Now, nothing is 100% proof. It can't be. But there's a lot of things that are pretty tried and true on that list. Yeah. But I just brought some pretty ones in to help show. Wow. So this is Gaillardia. Arizona blanket flower is the other name. It actually is a nice little wild flower for here. Does very well, likes full sun, can take a hot spot and just keep on going. What makes this rabbit resistant is the leaves are very fuzzy, I guess is the best way to put it. It doesn't show up on
camera. This is where it does pay to be watching the podcast rather than listening while you're driving or while you're tuned in. You can actually see the flower. It is gorgeous on camera, but I don't think I can pick up the fuzz. I can't quite see
but
that.
It's got
that
hairs
all over it.
Fuzzy, hairy leaf. So, it's kind of, they're going to eat it and it's going to kind of get stuck in their throat and they're going to go, I'll move on to something else. I'll go visit the neighbors. But it's a pretty little wildflower that just blooms all season long. Just a great plant, and it
blanket flower. They call it blanket flower because it also recedes, it spreads, and it starts to blanket that
Mhm.
part of the garden. Looks fantastic in containers.
Mhm.
Looks great out in the yard, a raised bed. It is truly an Arizona perennial. That is, it comes back year after year after year. It rests underground, then comes back fresh from the roots and from the seed. So it just spreads across the yard methodically. And javelina, deer, rabbits, things don't like the taste of this. This is also one more I can mention that this really benefits from deadheading or
Mhm.
pinching off the spent flowers. If you do that consistently, it will pulsate waves of flowers for months,
Mhm.
not just weeks. It's an amazing perennial. Every yard should have at least 3.
At least 3.
Gaillardia or blanket flower. Does this
Yeah.
come in more than just this Arizona sunset
Oh
color?
yeah, it comes in like a more just a solid red. It
Okay.
comes in a one they call mango, which is kind of an orangey
Gotcha.
color. Its cousin, kind of the coneflower,
Yeah,
is another really good
that's true.
animal resistant plant, and it also it's a good continual bloomer, loves the sun. But echinacea or coneflower is another one that would be a great companion plant with this, and they'd both be very animal resistant.
That is an amazing camera. I can't believe I can get that close and show off that flower. I think I could see the seed heads on that thing. That's crazy.
Yeah. Problem is, it
beautiful.
can also see our face and see
Yeah.
every wrinkle.
Now I've got the filters on. It smooths all that out.
I don't think so. Another really good one is agastache, otherwise known as hummingbird mint.
Yeah.
And I think, is there another name? Hyssop is the
Hyssop.
other name that it goes by. This one's very animal resistant as well because the foliage has like a licorice smell
Yeah, it does
to
have
it.
a real minty,
So it has that
licorice
minty,
smell.
licoricey
Yeah.
that the bunnies don't like, and the deer and the javelina don't like either. So they just kind of leave it alone out there in the yard. Very pretty tubular little flowers that the hummingbirds
Yeah,
adore.
they do like this. That's the name, hummingbird
Mhm.
mint.
Right. And it comes in pinks, it comes in purples, it comes in oranges, yellows. I've seen it in quite a few colors. A good companion plant to go with that would be your Salvia greggii, your
Sure.
autumn sage. Another just tough plant that the animals leave alone. Another continual all summer season-long bloomer. And that one comes in pinks and purples and whites and reds and whites. And
this one I always think of, or I tell folks, this is like a mojito for hummingbirds. Because it smells, it sort of has that flavory look into it, and they just cannot get enough of it. They're thinking, parties over here, bring the chips and the salsa. This is where we're at. I frequently companion plant with this lavenders.
Oh, that would be good.
Because this has got that great green foliage.
Right.
It's a little bit taller, about hip high, just below hip high. But lavenders have this silvery, most of them, silvery to blue foliage.
Right.
So it's a great contrast, and they're just a click down, but the flowers are very similar, typically blues to purples. On the lavenders, this has got pinks, blues, yellows, that kind of stuff. It has a lot of different colors, but they really look good in the garden together. And they both love bright sun. Hit them with wind. Hit them with javelina. They're not going to bother any of these guys. They're just kind of bulletproof.
Right.
And they all come back year after year after year after year. So they're great. This looks great in a container.
Yeah.
On the back patio, or just right in the ground. Either one. I think I think more yards need hyssop or hummingbird mint in the yard, just because it's such a strong plant for you.
Oh, I would agree.
I did notice it too, that the swallowtails,
they like it.
They go after this. Yeah, swallowtail butterflies. It's one of those pollinator. If you're into pollinators, you want to attract more hummingbirds, butterflies, bees, save the planet kind of stuff, which we should all be thinking that way. This one is a great one for that. So hyssop, hummingbird plant, hummingbird mint, and what was the third one? Had 3 names for it?
Agastache.
Agastache. Yes.
Which is my favorite one to say.
Agastache. Ooh.
Another good plant, if you're going with lavenders, is rosemaries.
Oh, yeah.
Because rosemary is very animal resistant.
Yeah.
It's evergreen for here.
Yeah.
You can go upright with like the Tuscan blues. You can go creeping. So if you got an area you want a ground cover in, the creeping rosemary is excellent for that.
Well, great suggestion. So we have here at the garden center, we curated several collections. We've got shrubs, just animal resistive shrubs, a whole table that just shrubs that they don't eat. And then we have the same thing for perennial flowers. So if you need some more suggestions, come see and just peruse yourself, and they're right there. Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners, and the rabbit-proof plants you can find here at Waters Garden Center.
Waters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, crepe myrtle, and purple verbena.
Purple verbena is mountain famous for gorgeous summer-long flowers held over compact green foliage.
This purple bloomer loves bright gardens, summer heat, and grows best in poor soils with less water.
Go ahead and abuse this bloomer. You can't kill it.
The perfect native perennial for easy summer long flowers.
You'll only find the toughest verbena here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. For a more fruitful garden, increased success in the landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Mountain Gardener podcast. Subscribe through your favorite podcast streamer or visit watersgardencenter.com. Better yet, visit me directly right here at Waters Garden Center. Thanks for tuning in.